Jen Jen. How are you today?
I'm hanging in there, but I am happy to be here with you. We just did our Instagram live, so yay!
Yay! Oh my gosh. I know this has been a tough couple of days. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Whew, oh my goodness. For those of you out there who join us every week, this is the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and my great partner, Jen. And this week, we were getting prepared. We were getting all ready to meet each other in San Francisco and do a live show and meet with other business partners and all these various things and take great pictures and such. And we had everything set up and boom. Things happen, life happens, and
yeah.
And did you want to tell them a little bit about what's going on?
So talk about life happening. I mean, I'm so pissed right now, and even though you see me smiling, and yeah, we had a lot of stuff in the next couple weeks that were planned, and even for me personally, and then I had a family member test positive for COVID. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I end up going in. Here's the crazy part, guys. I'm vaccinated, no symptoms, nothing, no fever, nothing. And I tested positive. So it just kind of shows you what we're dealing with here. And I think sometimes we might have let our guard down, and so just be careful. And so I'm trying to not reel in all the things that had to get canceled, but summer has been so amazing and wonderful like this week, and just reminding me to be grateful that what and here's the thing, it's so strange, Summer, because like I'm so used to being the person comforting other people, and then it was like weird for me to feel like, oh my gosh, like this is happening to me. And having to remind myself, I'm like, yeah, I would be telling this to somebody else. And like, I don't know why I can't tell myself this right now because I'm so mad. But she grounded me to remind me that, what, it could have been worse. What it could have, I was even telling myself, what, at least I'm not in a hospital intubated. And it could be so much worse. Thankfully, I'm just, okay, I hope that nothing else happens at this point because I'm not feeling anything. But still, now it's like, okay, no more plans. And back to virtual.
Well, here's the thing. No more plans for now. And this is a temporary blip on the radar. And the beautiful thing about this is we can plan. We can continue to plan. And this is what we talk about, folks, quite often, is how are we responding versus reacting to certain life situations. And here is a really great example where we need to kick in our super skills and move through it with ease and be kind to yourself, show yourself some kindness, and just move through it the best that you can and kick those super skills, like I said, into gear, meaning you've got this. What are your super skills? Take a break, take care of yourself, understand that this is just, like I said, a blip on that radar. And it's just a moment in time. And yes, things have happened and it's weird. We're really living in, I'm just going to, get layman with you, but it's like, it's really strange how certain factors, we have no control over certain things, right? So we do the best that we can in relation to keeping ourselves well, in relation to making sure that we take care of our needs, meaning we got vaccinated, you were being safe, and there was that one exposure that linked to this, that it was like, that was it. It just took that one time. And you were one of those breakthrough cases. And I don't think it's going to be all that uncommon these days. So it's how we kind of, and I'm going to use this word, how we embrace the situation and then how we kind of maneuver through that. Right. And so you're doing a great job, Jen, and all the exterior stuff, such as all the planning, all that other stuff, it is disappointing. And that's what's heartbreaking. And it's also heartbreaking thinking like how how does that impact other people? What kind of exposure did they have? How did that impact their lives? Blah, 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 right? All that stuff. But more importantly, all that other exterior stuff like plans, hotels, blah, that's easy stuff. That's easy stuff. That is easy, easy peasy stuff. That means just planning again. Keep all the documents. Go to the same hotels when you're ready again. Get, a car. And so outside of that, those little things, they don't matter. What matters most is you and your wellness.
Thank you for that perspective. Because like me is like the last thing I'm thinking about. I'm just like so angry. And I'm like thinking about all the opposite, the exterior and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for putting that into perspective. Because yeah, I have completely lost it.
I know, it's so easy to do. Trust me, I've been there. One of the things that is the scariest for me is like any medical condition. So I know what that feels like. And it's difficult because especially with COVID, there are so many unknowns and so many variables that we have no control over them. And so except for be safe, get vaccinated. And I put this out there. I'm like, be safe, be well, folks, because you just never know how this can impact you and your life. And I'm not just saying like planning a trip. I'm saying your personal health and well-being. So That's what I'll say on that. So here we are. Jen's a trooper. She's here with me, even with everything that was going on. And we didn't find out until like late last night. So we had to jump into action and make sure that everything we could take care of was taken care of. And we did. That's because we're who we are, right? Because the basic foundation of who we are is never going to go away. And so that means essentially that we're still these go-getters. We're still going to plan. We're still going to strategize. We're still doing all this stuff while maintaining our own health and wellness and being kind to yourself, Jen. So we are going to jump into the subject.
Yes.
And it's can alcohol destroy your relationship? ? And here's the question that was submitted to us. My boyfriend drinks like a fish and has since he's been young. I'm so over it. I dislike that all of our outings have to be focused around drinking. Should I stay or should I go? I swear that always reminds me of the Clash song. Should I stay or should I go now?
Yeah, that's what plays in my head when I hear that. Yeah.
Right? So, and I love the Clash. So, well, do you want me to jump right into this, Jen?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So first of all, should I stay or should I go? So let me break this down. There's three essential factors here. So there's the problem, the alcohol addiction. So it's an alcohol use disorder is what we call it in the clinical field. The next part is how do you work through it? Like, how do you recognize it? And the next part is the decision of, do I leave or do I stay? And these are all personal, like that's a personal choice. That is solely personal. You know that out there, but base it on some education, base it on some insight, base it on, what feels good to you, what is good for your safety and wellness. Again, I always lead with that. What is healthy for you? Think about your own personal wellness, because this is called an alcohol use disorder. This is considered a medical issue. So the question is, can people be helped? Can they change? Yes, because this is a medical disorder, they can receive treatment and they can change, but it is also a choice. So what I'd like to start off first with is, because I don't want to jump the gun in regards to should I stay or should I go? Let's start off with the warning signs. Let's start off how to recognize whether or not somebody might have a disorder or a problem of using alcohol. And so some of the things are, is your partner hiding their behavior regarding drinking or alcohol around the house, outside of the house? Are they drinking and blacking out? When do they start drinking? Once they get up, can they stop themselves from drinking? Are they drinking in dangerous situations or creating dangerous situations based on their drinking? Are they neglecting their responsibilities at work and school? And obviously, because this person asked the question, are they struggling in their personal and professional relationships. So those are some of the major warning signs, big time. And also, I think, Jen, when we talked a bit about this on the Instagram and our Instagram show, you had mentioned a story. Do you want to go into that story? Because you had mentioned during that story a couple of things that I had written down. And I really liked your story because it talked about deflection. It talked about not taking responsibility. It talked about all these different factors that are really critical when you're trying to help somebody. So do you want to talk about your story? Okay.
Was this the one when I was supporting somebody and going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is years ago, and I had to attend an AA, Alcohol Anonymous meeting with somebody because they didn't want to go. So here was I did not add this when we spoke about this earlier. So the interesting thing about this particular scenario, this person wasn't an alcoholic. What happened was he got a DUI and it caused some problems. So he had to attend it, but he doesn't have the disorder or whatnot. So that's why he was kind of like, please just keep me company. I can't believe I have to go to this. So that was interesting. So we went, and I sat there, and so even for him, I think it was, a wake up call too, because, this is the reality of things that can go down this road, and things can progress. Like, I know we talk about this as well, where there's always this spectrum, and a range. And so here we are, where it's like, okay. And I love that you talk about, what kind of behavior does somebody have? What are the things to look out for? Because, there's people that drink occasionally and often, and then there's the extreme end where now we're attending these meetings. And so here's the story that took place in the meeting that I had attended. I remember just sitting there thinking, like, wow, I couldn't believe the things that these people were going through. And so a lot of times, like, for us, where we see, okay, alcohol, you go to the grocery store, you got vodka, whatever, beer, all kinds of different alcohol at a grocery store, right? These people that were at this meeting were now at the point where once that was gone, it was consuming them, and they were looking anywhere. They were hiding stuff like, okay, I thought I had it in the garage. I thought I hid it in the car. I thought I hid it in the closet, under the bathroom sink, like in the most random places. It's gone to that point because they're hiding it usually from their spouse. And so it was just so crazy when I was listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that people they're now living like this, and their partner is enduring this with them and witnessing this. And so other things were, it wasn't even just like hiding the alcohol, but it was also the kind of alcohol. So the kind that are in the grocery store, that kind is gone. People were now resorting to rubbing alcohol, Listerine, cough syrup. I mean, it was anything that contains the element of alcohol, not necessarily the consumable kind, like you make in a drink or you get at a bar. And when I heard the rubbing alcohol, I mean, I can't even imagine, but it's to that point where the person just wants it that badly.
Yeah.
And the sad thing at the end of it was that these people, grown men crying and breaking down that they lost their wives, their partner, they lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they cannot see their children anymore. I mean, it was just this mountain falling apart of like the breakdown of everything that they had in their life at one point, and it got so rock bottom that it's not there anymore. And so this is what they're sharing in their story. And so this is why they were at the meeting. They're trying to get their life back together and doing the whole 12-step program. But I never forgot it. I never forgot watching these people break down because their lives, but because of their choices, has been completely ruined. And so, the hope is that you see that, okay, you're here. So hopefully you will get onto the road of recovery. And it was nice because if any of you are familiar with the meetings, like you pass around the chip and you say how many days you've been sober. So it was nice to see that some people were on track, and it was encouraging. After that meeting, I was just like, okay, these people, like, 90 days, 123 days since my last drink. And so it's like, so to your point, when you're saying, can people change, by choice, and they want to, and they get the right help? Like, yeah. So I've seen it.
Yeah. And I have too. I have seen in multiple instances, people change. And I've also seen people not change and have this disorder for years and years and years and still do. And it's amazing because they are struggling. And this is why we call it alcohol use disorder, because it is a medical condition. There can be a genetic disposition to here. So if you've got a lot of addiction in your family, there might be a genetic disposition. So it's not to say, though, that is an excuse for behavior, because we always, always, always have a choice. I have worked in the mental health field for years in facilities, hospitals, and I can tell you some of the people who have been impacted by the worst psychosis also had a choice. They had a choice to take their meds. They had a choice to not take them. They had a choice to respond to certain things or not respond. And so seeing people recover, seeing people make these choices, even in the worst of situations that help support their wellness, it was just more support for, I see that we have the power of choice, especially when we have the right resources around us to help us go through the situation. So here's the thing. You had also mentioned that later on in the show, Jen, you mentioned that resources and that, being there to help somebody. Here's the thing. We want to nurture. We want to be helpful. That's just our condition. And as human beings, many times, and that's great. And we can help others. But the resources and the correct resources for people struggling with a disorder, with a substance abuse disorder, need the right resources around them, because it can be so draining for those around them trying to be supportive all the time. And it's not that it's a right or wrong support. It may be that it just can be draining and it can really break the family apart. So the people who are going through it need the right resources. And I've been there too, where I've seen people break down and go through detox and go through convulsions because they didn't have the right resources, and they were trying to, what I call, titrate off of alcohol. So slowly or gradually come off of alcohol or drugs, and they would then, because it impacts the body so much, they can become dehydrated. You can convulse. And so there are really important factors as to why people who are going through substance use disorders have the right resources around them. So I talked about, and thank you for that story, Jen, because that really tapped into a lot of different things. So the first thing I tapped into were warning signs. The next thing that I want to tap into is, can you actually help somebody with their addiction, whether it's drinking, drugs, whatnot? Can we change them? No. Can we help them? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The first part of this always, always, always is good communication, right? Communication is the key to every relationship. So communication and encouraging someone to talk about why they drink can help somebody understand what they're doing to themselves. This is a disorder. They are abusing themselves. So citing specific examples of the effects of someone's drinking are more effective than giving an ultimatum. So it's not about a blame. It's not about an ultimatum. It is about citing examples about how they're hurting themselves and others around them. It is also about talking to other people who have been successful in their drinking, getting help and support for recovery. And so definitely, if you can link your partner, your friend with somebody, a peer who has been through this, as a mentor, a model, a sponsor of sorts. So that is going to be really helpful, because they're going to understand that they've been through some of the similar things, that the disease, so to speak, or the disorder is such that you're hiding alcohol, that you're drinking, getting up dreaming about it, that it's impacting your day. And even though it's impacting your day and your relationship so much, you continue to do it. And the real reason is the why. Why? And that's not for me to say, that's not for you to say, that's for you to figure out. Because we can all have an opinion, but my opinion isn't necessarily your why. So you got to figure out and be invested in that, in your why. So good communication, setting the examples. These are all ways that you can help, and linking somebody with somebody who has been successful in their recovery. These are all really great ways to really help people during their process. Now the next part of this is whether you should leave or stay. Do you have something to say? Do you want to say something, Jen?
No, go ahead. Okay. Down to the, what do I do?
Yeah, what do we do? Here's the thing. So research shows that one of the things that is going to prompt you to probably step out that door to leave is fear. Fear for your safety and fear for others around you, potentially kids, maybe elders you're taking care of, maybe parents, whatever that may be. It's usually prompted by fear. And so fear for your own wellness and well-being. So if you come to that point in the road where you are that fearful, you may have to make some hard decisions to leave, I would say. Do we always leave? No, we don't always leave. And that can be a challenge because you're going to try and put into place some of those suggestions that I talked about. Communication, talking about those experiences as to how that other person is impacting you, themselves, and those around them, their relationships, not paying the bills. I mean, because people can become so disconnected that they're not functioning as they would should they be off the substance. So what I would say is, should you leave or should you go? That's going to be up to you. That really is up to you. But I will say this. If there is ever a situation where you're fearful about your life or those that you're taking care of, that's the point where you leave.
Yeah.
In the meantime, you can help and you can set up support systems for yourself as well as for others, such as your children if you have them, and for your family. So it's really important to have that support system around you, because that person who's drinking or who's abusing the substance is not the only person being hurt in this relationship. It is you as well. And as much as we want to go to that safety net of our family, our parents, and our maybe family who aren't blood related, but other family, it's like that can be very draining for them. So you want to get connected with the correct resources where you can join groups, where you can also connect with a sponsor, where you have the support system who knows what you're going through and who can really relate.
I love that part because I'm thinking about somebody that made a comment in our last show on Instagram, how she had shared going through a relationship where there was alcohol involved and he was hiding it. And so she was sharing that whole experience. And she did mention, in relation to what you just said, that she wishes she did reach out. And the reason why she didn't is because she felt ashamed.
Yes.
And I think that's something that's like, gosh, that just like hits me.
Yeah.
And there's like those feelings of like shame, there's guilt. And she also mentioned, this was actually kind of an important part of this brief comment she made, was that they had been warning me. So I think that a lot of that shame comes from, oh, are they going to do, I told you so? Well, we told you about him, so we have to be careful when, and there's two sides of it. We as the support system or potential support system, how are we communicating with the person who needs the help? How are we communicating with the person that is not the one with the disorder or the challenge with the alcohol, but the person that's, I am going through this with my partner and I am lost. I'm hurt. I'm confused. I don't know where to go. How are we being supportive of their needs and what they need? But I will also say it's so important that we do get these resources, because sometimes, friends and family mean well, but sometimes, they're not trained. They're not trained to properly handle these situations. And that's where it can feel like they're not saying the right thing. I'm sure a lot of times they mean well and they love you and they want to make sure you're okay. But sometimes the way that in which they do it, it needs to go beyond that, where, look at Summer. She's got all this experience in the clinical field. She's seen this. There is a lot of training that she's gone through. They are going to know how to handle it differently and to be able to provide different resources that some friends and family, as much as they mean well, will not have access to or not aware of. So, we have to just be open and willing to be able to receive. And I know sometimes, there's other areas in my life where I have a hard time receiving and just accepting it. And so if you are in that situation, I think it's so important to realize it's okay to ask for help, because then what's the alternative? In hindsight, it's, I wish I did, like this particular person who made this comment. It's like, I wish I did reach out. I was ashamed. And it's such a sad place to be in when I'm looking at it from the outside, and you just want to embrace that person. But now, if you have the opportunity to change that and do something about it, just think about, if you don't, then what's the alternative? So I think it's so important for us to recognize it is okay to reach out for help, especially nowadays. And Summer and I have been looking at this extensively. Mental health and wellness is so huge right now. We are now coming into this space, not just now, but more and more and more so, where it is okay for this. This is like something we talk about now. It's, we're moving away from those times when, like, oh, we don't talk about, Uncle so-and-so.
Yeah, right.
That kind of thing. It's like, no, how can we support each other and help each other get through this? So, yeah. Yeah,
I love everything that you mentioned here, Jen. So brilliant. And honestly, from both a personal and professional level, the level of shame and embarrassment, and, even to the point where not wanting to tell anybody what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God. Because even your own family might see the person that has the condition, right? That has the condition a certain way because they haven't been around her, blah, 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 for a long time. So that they saw how he or she was before. And then they don't know what's happening on the other end. And you don't want to be the one to say, oh, that person's not doing good, or that person. So there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of, not just for the person who is abusing the substance, but for the people around them.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And yet here we are, and it's so important to ask for help. And I'll take it to kind of do a little shift here. One of the things, and one of the areas that I worked a lot in, was veterans, working with veterans, suicide prevention with veterans and such. And I even I went to George Washington to talk to medical students about this. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and went to a lot of trainings, 5 years of studying for my doctorate, right? So it's like certification programs, you name it. But being able to talk to students is so awesome because they generate questions that generate thoughts in your mind, like, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way, or you haven't worked in this field, or you don't, So it's like, to be able to be in a forum like that and to really help support new clinicians going out into the field, doctors, nurses, PAs, going out in the field. One of the things I did find, and that was really important to tell them, was when you have somebody like a veteran or somebody who has an addiction, you want to connect them to people that are going through it or have been through it and how they work through it. That peer-to-peer action is so critical in recovery and finding solutions, healthy solutions. When people are ready, we created programs even in our nonprofit called Veteran Peer-to-Peer Resources, Veteran Peer-to-Peer Help Support Systems. And we did that because veterans related best to veterans. They knew that they would be understood, that they were in the same, they've been in similar situations, so they could trust that they understood more so than even a therapist. So that's why when you were talking about resources, it is so important, because even when they come and sit in like a therapy office, or when they come to be triaged because they're in crisis, a lot of times they don't even want to divulge what's going on with them because they're embarrassed. because they don't feel like you'll understand, because we're using these technical terms that make them potentially feel uncomfortable. So again, ask for help and get connected with the right resources, because they're the ones who are going to know exactly how to support you. So thank you for bringing that up, Jen, because it is so critical that people get connected with the right resources. And also for those of you who are actually going through this right now and deciding whether or not you're going to leave or stay, make sure you ask for help. There is no embarrassment. I know you might feel this way. There is no shame in this. It is okay to ask for help. Start the process today. Start it now. If you have questions, you can always DM the Life, Love, and Money Show. If you're looking for support or a support system, we'd be happy to help you with that and try and link you with some support. So, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much wrapped it up. I think this part is the most critical. After you have identified, yeah, this is what I'm involved with, and I've been trying. Yes, this resources, and you made such a great point about the peer-to-peer. It's huge because you can relate. I mean, how many times have you heard people, or you've seen it in, in dialogue? It's like, you don't understand, this is never, and I think, I don't even want to go into another subject, but it's kind of reminds me of like grief or grieving. Yeah. Somebody has somebody close to them pass away, and you're trying to find the right words. And one of the phrases that I remember reading, that it was like in some articles I was researching, was saying, don't say certain things like, oh, I totally understand. Like, no, you don't. Or it depends. Like there's certain words where the phrases really, really kind of show the person who's, in pain, that like it's insensitive. And so I think sometimes when you're able to find other people who have gone through that, it's that there's so much power in that. You can share your stories, and that's why these support groups are so huge and very successful for many people when they stick to it, because there's that, there's that deep friendship and relationship, and just like, you guys are going through one of the biggest things ever that is very life-changing and affects so much part of your life. I mean, if you remember the stories that I shared, I mean, some of these people lost everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I think that is such a good point, because let me point out an example here. So John Travolta lost his wife last year, and he said all these people were coming up to him, even those people who had lost loved ones, saying, I understand, and here's my story. And they would go into this dialogue of their own story. And he finally said, it sometimes is harder when you lose a loved one to be around people who've also lost other loved ones, because they want to tell you your stories to console you, but then you end up consoling them. And it's like, wow. So when you're actually in these forums where these meetings are set up like Alcoholics Anonymous, these meetings are actually set up in a certain way where you're not taking on somebody else's grief, that you're not taking on somebody else's issues, but you're listening. And you're listening for, how did they do it? How did they make it through? What were the resources? And they're positioned in a certain way and structured in a certain way that each person can listen, and that they can be reflective for reasons of getting the help and support that you need. And so a lot of times it is difficult. It's so difficult when you're going through the situation, whether or not you're outside as a friend trying to help, or the person that is in the relationship that doesn't have that is not abusing the substance, and finding out or figuring out, what should I do? Should I stay? Should I go? So on that note, guys, I think we covered a lot of ground here. If you missed some of this, please go back to our YouTube page and subscribe and listen and lean into this information. And if there's something that we said that has helped you, please feel free to comment. But please tell your friends, because they may need to hear some of this information. Tell your friends about the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. We do have our own YouTube page. If you could throw that up there, Jen.
Yep. It is right there.
Right there.
Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. And
subscribe, please.
Yeah,
subscribe. And thank you, Jen. I know you're going through a lot yourself. Thank you so much for being here today. And folks, thank you, Jen. So,
oh, did you want to do your nugget?
Yeah, let's do our nugget.
All right.
I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, so I think we talked a lot about support group and peer-to-peer and how important that is. So my new nugget, because we do one on Instagram. So my new nugget is, in light of what Summer said, she made me think of something so important. I think sometimes we need to hear it when we are that support. Sometimes we don't have to have the answer. Sometimes we just need to listen and just be present with that person. And sometimes we might struggle, like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you what to do. And take that pressure off you and just make your priority being present and listening to whatever they have to say. Because sometimes it's all people need. You'd be surprised. Sometimes people really don't want the answer. They just want to unload. Yeah. They might be in a situation where they don't even have anybody to unload on and just have somebody to listen to them. It's amazing how often I hear this where I don't feel listened to. I don't have nobody to talk to. If you can just be that person that just listens, that is 1,000 times the help that you could even imagine. And then at the end, just like, you know what, I'm not sure, but here are some resources, or I can point you somewhere that could totally help you with this the right way. And take that pressure off you. But I'm telling you, the biggest difference you can make for that person is just be present and listen.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just writing that here.
Yeah.
So, as I was talking about that John Travolta story, what I was thinking about was exactly what you were saying. Is maybe seriously, Jen and I, we're like this.
Yeah, across the state.
Cerebral connection, right? Yeah. It's like, woo. So what I was thinking about is sometimes you just need to sit down next to that person, maybe put your hand on their hand and be like, I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here for you. You are not alone. You are not alone in this. And if I can be that ear and that heart to listen, then I'm here. And Jen said it best, it's just being available. We don't have all the answers. Even me, when it comes to death or it comes to, some of these, it's like, oh my God, that's why I really, I like triage. I like assessment. I like quick, determining what the issues are. And then resources, connecting folks with resources and the next person to do the counseling, right? My point is, it's like, I like to figure out the A, B's and C's of things, right? Really fast. And then send those people on, because I do like to hear what they have to say, but I also want to get them to the right people who can actually provide structure and meaningful help and support for those folks. So sometimes, like you said, Jen, it is just solely about listening and being there and letting that person know I'm here for you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jen.
Another great show. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Dr. Summer Watson is the owner of the production and coaching company Core Women, LLC, is a doctor of psychology, has a depth of experience working in both for-profit and nonprofit in human services and mental health, is a professional coach, seminar host, documentary film producer, and an author. Jen Fontanilla is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach, speaker, and has published 6 books. She has worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the U.S. Air Force. She loves working with women and helps them master their money and mindset to empower them to build the ultimate life without worrying about money. Join Summer and Jen every week as they go live on the Life, Love, and Money Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.